Hello and welcome back, and today I want to show you guys two of the easiest ways to transfer data from your Google Photos and Google Drive onto your Asustor NAS. Now today's steps work on pretty much any Asustor NAS, Nimbus Store, Locker Store, even some of the earlier ones. It really doesn't matter because the majority of the tools that we're going to look at today are available across the whole of ADM. Just make sure that you have a few things up and running. One, you want the latest version of Asustor's ADM software installed on the NAS, and of course you've had to set it up and get the RAID sorted, and I've got lots of setup guides to walk you through that one. And the two tools we're going to be looking at today are Photo Gallery down here and a lovely little tool known as Data Sync Center. Now Data Sync Center is the tool we're going to use later on in the video, not to be confused with that of the more backup centric tool Easy Sync Manager. But for now, let's head back into the Google side of things. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about two ways to transfer data over. One of them, I would say, is the more encompassing one that allows you to cover all of the photo data, including metadata in the background. And the other one is a lot more easier and automated system, but more about Google Drive. So let's go with the more Google photo-centric one. What you need to do is head over to Google Takeout. Now in Google Takeout, this is where Google maintains and keeps all of the data that you have submitted, be it on maps, be it on YouTube, even small information like locational history and more are all present here. Now scroll to the top and click deselect all, because we don't want all the data. All we want is the photo data. So scroll down until you find Google Photos. Now once you've found Google Photos, plop a little tick in that box. If you're looking at all of your data in your Google Drive, all of the files and folders there, or are just looking at having both of them, you can scroll up, find Drive, and put a tick in that box there if you choose. Once you put a tick in one or two of the boxes that you want, and again you can download all the data if you choose, but it will be huge, scroll down and find the option that allows you to begin the exporting. Click Next Step. From here, it will ask you, firstly, how would you like the download to be sent to you? Now, you can just leave this page open, but depending on the size of your photo collection or Google Drive, that might take hours, weeks, months, whatever. So it's easier to select the download via email. On a side note, if you do want to send your Google data to another supported cloud service, you can click one of those if you choose. Next, you can say how often you want to do this. You can do it just the once to download all the data, or arrange it so that Google will send you an email every, for example, 2 months for 1 year and allow you to download that 2 months of data regularly. For this video, I'm going to export once. And finally, you've got the two options at the bottom. Firstly, select the protocol that you want for this small compressed file. You want a zip file. And finally, the size of each zip. Now it's worth highlighting, sorry the fan on my laptop is ramping up there in the background as we record more and more. It's worth highlighting that you should really look at 2 gig files, not 4 gig, if you are going to be putting data on NAS systems. It's not necessarily the end of the world and you can copy data quite easily. However, some file systems have difficulty, such as FAT32, with file sizes greater than 3.7 gig. And although we are talking about NAS transfers today, if you are going to be keeping this for legacy data long term and going to keep the zipped up files, I recommend going for 2 gig and not greater. But obviously the size of the data that you're storing on your Google Drive, whether it's the free 15 gig version or something a bit beefier, you may want to change that option accordingly. Next, click Create Export, and now in the background Google will start packing up all of the data you've requested. Now the amount of time this will take does depend heavily on the amount of data you're dealing with. As mentioned, possibly hours or days. In my case, this will be very quick because we've only got one album there with 22 files inside. So there we go, we'll go back to that, and if we look at the Google page we can see that it's already finished the download, and we can download it just by clicking here. Remember, you don't have to keep this page open. Once you've started the process of Google compacting all the data together, you can close your browser if you choose, or just close the tab and wait for Google to email you with a link to what you're doing, and you can go ahead and click the download there. Now once you've downloaded it, in the case of this Windows computer, it will appear in your downloads folder. There you can see there's the Google Takeout that I've downloaded earlier. What you need to do is right click, and either if you're using WinRAR like an absolute legend, go ahead and extract with that, or you use Windows or Apple's own built-in extraction tool. Once you extract the file, head into it, go into the Takeout option, and then the option for Google Photos. If you have selected other Google services, they will be listed here. Next, click Google Photos, and you will see the albums that you've chosen to have in your Google Photos directory. Now, if you've not created custom albums, portfolio sort of albums, then all the photos in your Google Photos folders will be listed by year. So every single one of them will be available here. As you can see, we've got 2 albums with photos from 2017 and 18 inside. So the next thing we want to do is transfer these over to NAS. Now there's loads of ways to do this, but the most straightforward, although arguably not the most professional, is to just drag and drop. So find the album that you're going to use for photos. In the case of Asustor NAS, go to the photo gallery option. From there, you might already have albums in place, as I do there. Get your photo albums on screen. Highlight both of them, carry them over, let go. And there you go, you can drag and drop. You can even choose wherever, if it finds the same file, whether you want to skip that file or overwrite it. I'm going to click OK. So now it's going to copy over that data into this new directory for us. And then while it does that, we can then open it up in the Photo Gallery app in order to see all the photos that we've created. As you can see, they're all being transferred there in the background, and if you open up the Task Manager, we can see a lot of those things being carried over. We've got photos from 2018 already inside, and they've even got the JSON files that we've copied over from Google. Now, in an earlier video, I didn't touch on the JSON files. This is where Google stores a lot of that background data, apparently, and it is advisable to make sure you copy that data over to make sure all the metadata is carried over as well. As that copies over there in the background, let's go ahead and look at the second way that you can carry over your data from your Google Drive and by extension your Google Photos onto your Asustor NAS. And this utilizes that data sync tool that we mentioned earlier, Data Sync Center. Open up Data Sync Center. From there, if you haven't used it, it will recommend for the first time a few little tips and tricks. And the first thing it's going to do is guide you through how you want to do this. So in this case, I want to synchronize a Google Drive. So put a tick there and click Authorize. It will then open up a web browser link that will ask you to verify your connection between your Google Drive and Asustor. If you've already logged in on your web browser, it won't ask you to verify your identity, although it may do it. So just be warned that you will have to verify who you are in one way or another. Click Allow. And now it's connecting that Google Drive with this Asustor NAS. Now you can name the task. I'm just going to leave it as Google Drive. And you can say what kind of thing you want to do. A NAS to Google sync, where the folders inside the NAS will synchronize with the Google Drive. A two-way sync, where the selected folder on the NAS and Google Drive will be synchronized and mirrored at all times. Or a Google Drive to NAS, which is the contents of the Google Drive folder you select will be sent to the NAS. And if you delete the files on the Google Drive, they stay on the NAS. It will always, as more files are added to the Google Drive, copy them to the NAS, regardless of if they get deleted off the cloud. I'm going to select that one. As you can see, you can change a lot of the options if you choose, and you can arrange certain things that I haven't seen in other NAS brands, such as the ability to convert Google Office files, which have their own file format, to Office 365, which is actually quite impressive, something once again I've not seen other brands do. Next, you can force Google Drive to synchronize suspected malicious files. Now, bear in mind, a suspected malicious file on a Google Drive, although it's good that Google does analyze all the files inside, when you upload files to your Google Drive that are above a certain size, Google will say this file is too big to scan. And once it does that, it treats that file as malicious regardless of the safety. It's simply based on the fact that it's been uploaded but it's too big to be scanned live. That same thing can happen here. So if you are going to be dealing with large files regularly, it's recommended you put a tick next to that box. Then click Next, and it will ask you to select the folders both on the local NAS and the Google Drive. So the remote path, or the NAS, go ahead and click the folder icon. It analyzes the available folders inside your drive. It will scan quickly in the background, and you can go ahead and select the album that you want to synchronize with your NAS. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and synchronize this folder here. Actually, no, let's scroll down and find a photo album, shall we? Let's go ahead and find something interesting. We're just going to go straight into this pictures folder here. And this is going to have a bunch of albums for us, hopefully. And then from there, we'll select one of these to be synchronized. We can go into the photos album, might be more to play with there. And we'll go ahead and select the whole photos selection there. We're going to click OK. And from there, now you need to select the local path on the NAS. So this is going to be where in the NAS you're sending your files. So in my case, I'm sending them to the photo gallery. As you can see, the two albums from earlier that we carried over from the Google Takeout are there. But for now, we're going to go ahead and carry that data directly into the photo gallery. If you want, you can select individual files and folders if you choose. But for now, we're going to go ahead and let those two be the synchronized areas to carry data from the My Drive, the Google Drive Photos album into our photo gallery. Click Next, and next you can say whether you want this to be all the time or on a synchronized task. So you can choose whether you want this to be at a certain time of day, such as 1 or 2 a.m, so the network doesn't get too saturated by this, or make sure it doesn't happen at certain times of day. After that, it will ask you if you want to limit certain file sizes, such as files that are too big. And if you're synchronizing photos but don't want to synchronize video, you may want to take advantage of this. The same goes with choosing different file types. If you don't want to synchronize videos and audio files, but you do want images, or vice versa, you can make sure and create different exceptions right here. Then click Next. And then you just need to verify the choices you've made in this synchronization. Once you're ready, go ahead to the bottom and click Finish. As you can see, the synchronization is now taking place there in the background between the Google Drive and the NAS. The synchronization is happening in there in the background, and if we go in and go into the Photos folder, we'll be able to see, was it this file here, that it's two albums right here, and one of them is a selection of pictures of cats. If it is indeed the right album, which I think it is, but we'll find out shortly, no doubt. So we can go ahead and go back to the NAS, and it's worth mentioning we can go straight into the photo gallery tool. Now, from here, if we refresh this page, we can have a look and we can see that the photos from 2018-2017 have now been added, along with the 2019 photos here that are still in the process of being carried over from the NAS. Same goes with the pictures that are slowly getting carried over here from the cloud. Now, the amount of time this will take does depend on your own network connection and your own internet connection, but in my case this might take a little longer. But as you can see, the photos that we transferred earlier are now all visible here for us to play with. So we can go ahead, select a file here, and there's all the information there that we may want to go ahead and read. We've got all the information carried over from the JSON, and we can go ahead and find out a bit more information, downloading these files if we choose, and delete it, edit them, or tag them as we see fit. Currently, Asustor doesn't have the facial and AI-powered thing recognition that some of the other brands have, but they make up for it with NASes having just incredible raw power to play with outside of this. But this has been the best way to carry over your data from Google Photos and Google Drive onto your Asustor NAS. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Do visit the links in the description. There should be a guide live at the same time as this video to walk you through this process. Otherwise, it'd be an extra day or so. But this has been how to copy those files over. Click like if you've enjoyed the video. Click subscribe if you want to learn more. And I will see you next time.